Hello.
Hey there.
So grateful to be back.
There she is. There she is. Great to see you again. Great to feel your energy again.
Oh, oh yeah. I mean, your energy is always vibing high. I always love these chats.
Wow. Blessings. You know, the honor is mine. I'm just loving what we're gathering with now. You know, in this new year, it just feels like a whole wave of new energy. And I'd love to know what were your learnings and discernings, I guess, for 2024. If you can, tell us what did you really explore in 2024? And what did you learn more in 2024? Yeah.
Mm. Well, I definitely had a year of like very high highs and very low
Okay.
lows, and it's just been like this constant flow of learning to surrender to all of that and the constant reminder of what it truly means to be a part of this human
Right.
experience. And being a human, like we have the ability to experience all these different
Mhm.
emotions, and having detachment, knowing that not it's not just the positive feelings that we're meant to feel, it's also the low ones, and to have appreciation for all of it.
Hmm. Gratitude for it all, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because there is so much benefit in the polarity that we get to experience. So when you kind of like look at things from a higher level of consciousness, there is really no like negative or positive. It just is all a part of the human experience for us to learn and grow.
Wow. So there's no right, there's no wrong with
From a from an
with the
elevated perspective, yes,
yeah.
but from the human perspective, it's like, okay, we're here to decipher what feels right and wrong in order to grow. But when you look at it like outside of the human experience and remember that you're actually not human, you're just your soul is here to have a human experience,
Right.
and it just depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. But yeah, that's a constant reminder I have to come back from to that higher perspective whenever I'm faced with challenges,
Right.
to remind myself, okay, like this is here to help me evolve, and I chose to be here for this evolution.
Right. Likewise, likewise. And I appreciate that you have that perspective, that bird's eye view, like a hawk or like an eagle, just kind of looking down, able to see so many things a lot more clearer from that vantage point, from that point of view, from that POV. So when we have the duality of, the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, the right and the wrong, we would call that duality. So when you have that bird's eye view, is that like non-duality?
Yeah,
Is that like
exactly.
okay,
Yeah. And I'm definitely like not perfect. I definitely get caught up in the duality. Like I think certain dramatic experiences like pull us back into that experience pretty easily. And once again, there's no right and wrong. It's okay to be pulled into the duality and be, brought down to a lower state of vibration. It's
mm,
all a part of the experience, and it's all part of the necessity to almost forget who we truly are and come back into that remembrance, because that's happened to me multiple times in my life, these like death and rebirth experiences, and each time I get so much out of it. So I have a lot of appreciation for it, even though in the moment it's like a painful experience, but you know I chose to experience it.
right. I love that. Just it shows a lot of maturity. Just to be able to say that. Like it was so long that I couldn't even say that. Like I wasn't thinking I chose this. I was thinking like why. Just throwing up my hands like why me? It was always why me. Poor
Mhm.
me, poor me, poor this, poor that. The circumstances and situations and all the frustrations, the complications, the confrontations, and the low vibrations. So, Larissa, when you're talking about the pull of polarity, because you really reflect, you give me a connection and a reflection to a book that I read one point in my journey. It was called The Kabbalion. You ever heard of the Kabbalion?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had like Hermetic wisdom or hermetic principles from
Mm-hmm.
like Hermes, and it was like these laws, but these things like there was the law of vibration, there was the law of gender, there was polarity, there was cause and effect, there was everything is mental, all is mind, and all these different things. But I remember polarity and understanding that things are like on different sides of the same spectrum. Like it was all really just one.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about that pull of polarity, can you give us one of those situations where you might have had a death or a rebirth experience where you felt that pull of polarity and you had to reach deep down to really find that gratitude and appreciation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me in my life, relationships have been some of the biggest teachers. And so I definitely have experienced, I think in the past, like I've had this definite cycle of, well, when I was much younger, I had to really learn about self-love. And that came through learning that through relationships, usually like friendships or romantic relationships or dynamics in my family. Um, and so I think some of these experiences, when they pull us back into the human experience, taking us away from remembering that, like, okay, actually, I'm this light being, this soul that came into this human experience. I think the dramas that we experience in our life, um, which for me has typically come through relationships. Like it pulls you into this human experience so much that you forget who you are. You forget that you're this infinite being. You think, okay, I'm just this person like on this planet having this human experience, and we really really get tied to the experience through our emotions, and it kind of like I said, it takes us away from remembering who we are. And I've always gained so much though when I fall apart, when I let myself completely fall apart, because typically, so in recent years, I've had like two relationships end that ended in a similar way where I thought that my life was going in a specific direction. I was very attached to this reality I was creating and this story I was creating. And once it all fell apart, that like it just felt like my life was crumbling, and I realized now that's a good thing. It needed to crumble. Everything needed to die in order for this death and rebirth to happen. But in the process of it, I was so tied to my physical reality, the illusion of this physical reality, that it took me so far away from myself, from remembering that I'm this infinite being.
Right.
And that was okay. That was a part of the experience. I needed to experience like that full death, the mourning of the loss of a relationship and the life that I was creating and where I thought my life was heading. And it was like that polarity, that feeling of having so much love and then having it feel like it's being taken away, even though it's not, because it's all within you. But that experience of it, and like I said, forgetting who you are, all of that pain and suffering, like it just, it forces you to go inward. It forces you to just let go of everything and come back into remembering who you are. And it's like, oh yeah, actually I am infinite love. I am an infinite source of life. And I'm not even this person in this body. Like I'm just the one observing it and having that experience because I chose to. I chose to come here and experience pain and suffering and loss and love and bliss and all the good things too. But you can't have one without the other. And the lower density frequencies help you to appreciate the good experiences, that, you know, the blissful experiences. So um, when I just come back into that remembrance of just observing from that higher perspective and remembering that I chose to come in to this world and play this character, like that really shifts me out of the attachment to the pain and suffering. I still allow myself to feel it and let it move through my body and do practices that help me to shift and move the energy through my body so it doesn't get stuck. But I think the biggest thing that helps me every time is just that shift in perspective of like, oh, okay, like I'm not even this human. I'm just having this experience as a human temporarily.
Right. Wow, that really brings it back and kind of grounds it. It brings it down to earth because, you know, thank you for this testimony. Like, thank you for just being vulnerable enough to explain these things that, help us reframe these things,
Hmm.
because so many people go through these relationships and situationships, and there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of blame, like who's at fault here, like blaming them or even blaming yourself, you know?
Hmm.
And it really is, it can deteriorate our mental health when we're blaming someone else or we're blaming ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like we're shaming and blaming and we're not reclaiming, you know? Just understanding and understanding who you are and what you are, like that remembrance. I love how you talk about, Larissa, the remembrance, because if someone is understanding that, like you have that understanding, you said you have the awareness that I am love, it's I'm full, this is it, like I'm full of it. Why do we feel so wrapped up in entangled to the point that when a relationship is removed, we think the love is gone as well? Like
Yeah.
we think we're no longer worthy or all of those things. Why do we feel like love is absent when it's always present?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because we're in this realm of duality and we have the ability to relate. Like we have the masculine and the feminine energies coming together. And I think it, once again, is just to teach us a lesson in this human experience of that feeling so we have the feeling of separation and then we have the feeling of connection. And once that connection is separated again, we have that feeling of separation once again.
Mm-hmm.
But in my experience, it's always taught me to come back to
Right.
myself. And I think we're as we're navigating and growing and evolving as humans, and I think once again that relationships teach us a lot. I think we're really a huge lesson for a lot of us is learning how to relate in a responsible way that's like always going to be loving to ourselves and to others. So finding that balance between like a lot of people talk about attachment styles, for example, like learning how to have a healthy attachment style, not being too detached and not being too
Right.
attached, but finding that middle ground and that balance between learning how to love yourself and others in a responsible way. And there really is a delicate balance to it.
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, I think it's just one of the many lessons we're here to learn.
Right. I agree. It's kind of like what you were circling back to what you said before, Larissa. It's wisdom when you're talking about how, we can't have flowers without rain, and
Mm-hmm.
we can't have joy without pain, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about these attachment styles, what have you discovered or uncovered for yourself when it comes to your attachment style? Like, what do you feel like your style is now
Mm-hmm.
that you gravitate towards when you've now stepped away from what you said years ago? There was more of a codependent or another different type of style.
Mm-hmm.
You have, what's your style now?
Yeah, well, I definitely come from a past of what they call like anxious attachment
Okay.
style, which is yeah that more codependent and like people pleaser mentality. And I've developed over the years a secure attachment style, but I can still find myself falling into that anxious attachment style if I am around someone or like relating with someone that has what they call an avoidant attachment style. Like it typically those two tend to trigger each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difficult part is even when you become healthy within yourself, if you start to relate with someone who hasn't really developed that within themselves, to the skill of having a healthy attachment,
Mm-hmm.
then like a secure attachment style, then it can definitely make an imbalance. And then for me, I found myself like still resorting back to being an anxious attachment person if I'm not in a healthy relationship. So it's something within myself that I need to just recognize and realize if someone is making me feel anxious in a relationship, then that's a sign that it's not meant for me, or that I still have these things to work on within myself. Um, but yeah, typically, like, I've been very proud of myself for the way I have evolved and the way I've been rooted in self-love,
Hmm.
compared to how I was relating in the past. Like, I didn't even know about that concept when I was younger.
Right. Me neither.
Um,
Me neither.
yeah, so it's still a work in progress for me, honestly. Like, just learning to decipher, okay, if this person is pulling me out of my alignment and out of being my highest version, then I need to just let it go,
Right.
you know? And I think that's the biggest thing. That's the wound that some people trigger when they have an avoidant attachment style, is even when you're healthier, they can still trigger you to go back to your anxious ways. And so, yeah, I really want to get better at having more awareness around when I'm being pulled back to my past patterns so that
Mm.
I don't keep losing that progress that I've made.
Right. This is growth. This
Yeah.
is so much growth we're hearing right here. Like, I hope people are listening and taking notes. Like, and as we're hearing this in real time, this is tremendous. This is awesome. Like, what you're talking about, Larissa, it takes, I mean, years, for some people, decades, to
Mhm.
come to these conclusions that you are arriving at so eloquently. I love this because, my goodness, when you're talking about, these styles of attachment, and it reminds me of, there was a book I read years ago. It was called, you ever heard of Robert Greene, the author, Robert Greene?
I don't think so.
Okay, so he's written so many books, well, not tons and tons, but he's written a few that really, I mean, one of them, it's banned in prisons. One of his books is
Hmm.
banned
Wow.
in the prisons. They can't even have them in the prison cell. It's called the 48 Laws of Power. They won't have it in the prison.
Mm.
So he's written books like 33 Strategies of War, 48 Laws of Power, Mastery, The Laws of Human Nature, just all these books dealing with people.
Hmm.
And one of his books that a lady put me onto years ago, shout out to Jennifer, wherever she is right now. She might be still in the Philippines. But Jennifer, she put me onto this book called The Art of Seduction. You ever heard of that book?
I think I have, yeah.
So that's Robert Greene. That's
Oh,
Robert
okay.
Greene. Now, this art of seduction, it had many archetypes. There was the siren, there was the charismatic, there was the natural, there was the dandy. There were so many different archetypes, but there was one that was very interesting, and it's similar to what I feel like you're talking about. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was called the coquette. And if you look up this style called the coquette in Robert Greene's book, Art of Seduction, there was this push and pull.
Hmm.
There was like a kiss and a kick,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like there was this dynamic of avoidant attachment,
Hmm.
anxiety, avoidant attachment,
Hmm.
avoidant, right? And it was so intoxicating
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
it's almost like it injects you, almost like it's love bombing you. It injects you with something in the beginning, and then it takes it away,
Exactly.
and then it comes
Yeah.
back and it gives you more, and then it
Yeah.
takes it away. So can you give us an example? I don't know how much you wanted to share, but if you could give us an example of one of those times in your life where you realized that you were in that dynamic and you were like, okay, this is pulling me out of alignment and I need to
Hmm.
get back to the assignment. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, that actually like perfectly describes this last relationship that I was just in, like, perfectly. Um, and yeah, so once I started seeing that pattern within the person I was relating with, like, sadly, and it's okay, like, I forgive myself, but I had the awareness, yet I couldn't right away, like, just walk away. Like you're right, it's very intoxicating, it's very seductive, it's very um interesting how it like magnetizes you in even more. And I think it, especially if you have a past pattern of an anxious attachment style, it like triggers it within you to like uh cling on to that relationship more for whatever reason. It's a weird thing of human nature, and I don't really understand why or what it is, but um it's almost like it slowly pulls the reminder that you are love out of you, and you seek it from that other person. And so as soon as they start pulling away, it's like you're like, no, I still want this love. I want it more now that it's being taken away from me. And you forget, like, it's not being taken away from you.
Right.
It's all within you.
Right.
But it's just a weird, like, mind glitch that happens, and
Yeah.
you forget who you are for a moment, and you're like, I don't know. But um, it took me a while in this more recent experience to catch myself in that pattern. Like I felt like I was slowly forgetting who I was,
Mhm.
just slowly like falling out of alignment. And I wish I would have caught it earlier, but it's okay because the way it played out, it's always going to be how it was meant to be, you know? And I needed to experience the pain and suffering that was caused for me to experience it for a prolonged period because I got more out of it. I learned more from forgetting who I was. So it was just what needed to happen. And I think now in the future, I'll be able to catch myself sooner and realize, oh, I'm getting caught in this unhealthy pattern again. So I need to just exit the situation sooner so that I don't have to experience more prolonged suffering. Um, so it really is just lessons learned and evolution and growth.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. This is awesome because, it reminds me of what you've heard before, I'm sure, that, the people who say pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like, we're going to experience pain. There's no avoiding that.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to suffer, you
Yeah. And I
know?
feel like when we are suffering, we're choosing it,
Okay.
and it's not a bad thing. Like there's gold underneath that suffering that we're digging up. We're kind of falling and like decaying and letting go. We're just dying. Our old identity needs to die sometimes through
Mm.
that suffering. It kind of just like strips us down and strips us to our core and eventually reminds us, oh, okay, this is who I
Right.
am. Deep within, like I found myself again through that. So yeah, it's a choice, and I think we sometimes get into these patterns where we're self-sabotaging ourselves. We're just so like low in density that we kind of choose these lower vibrational experiences, and in a weird way they get us out of the density, but it's like we have to hit that rock bottom sometimes to come out of it first.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because even when I'm in those periods where I'm like just feeling numb or like depressed or just in grief, all those like painful experiences, once again, I can shift to that higher perspective and observe the experience. And I'm like, wow, okay, like I'm going through this death process. It's okay. It's helping me let go of that past life that I was in, that past identity. It needs to all die. And I think a lot of us try to avoid that process. We try
Mm-hmm.
to just like, you know, just ignore the pain within ourselves and move on really fast and just get back into our routines and just we're just gonna keep holding all of those dense emotions inside if we don't let them move through us. And so for me, I've always been good about that. Like I'm not afraid of the pain. I dive pretty deep into it and feel it really deeply, but after I feel it, then I just feel so much lighter. I'm like, okay, like I'm not leaving any of that within my system.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that you do that for yourself, and we deserve that,
Oh yeah.
you know. We definitely deserve that. And you're right, Larissa. You're right on key. There's times like the ball has to hit the ground before it bounces.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
it's got to go down before it goes back up. It's like, we just rebounded. Like there were so many times in my life I can pinpoint where I rebounded so quick that I didn't sit down with myself and process these things long enough and strong enough to really understand what just took place. Like
Hmm.
what just happened in my life, this rebirthing process, this, like a snake shedding its skin, or just, peeling back the layers of the onion and then allowing for the tears, you
Yeah.
know, letting go of the doubts, letting go of the fears,
Hmm.
that we hold on for years, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm.
So you mentioned go ahead.
Oh, I was just listening.
You mentioned, Larissa, that there are certain practices that you have adopted that allow you to transmute that energy transmutation, that you kind of feel it in your body and then you heal it in your body, you reveal it in your body, and then you release. So could you tell us, any techniques or any practices that you have adopted to be able to, move this energy through your body?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at first, I kind of just let myself dissolve into nothing. Like, if I'm sad, really, really sad from something,
Mhm.
and I have no desire to even do any self-care practices for a while, that tends to happen in the beginning process for me. I'll just rest and give myself permission to do so and take a step back from the craziness of life. But then I'll get through a period of just stagnation like that, just kind of resting and nurturing myself in that way. And then I'll be like, okay, now I need to like move this stuff out of my body. And there's so many amazing things you can do. Like I love yoga, I love breath work. There's some great breath techniques that help alchemize energy. Um, and things like shaking your body and dancing, like just any sort of movement where, especially where you're moving your hips and just like getting that energy flowing from the lower chakras up, like it's so helpful. But yeah, I mean, all of those are key, and it just starts to reinvigorate me, and I start to feel more of my soul re-entering my body when I do those types of practices.
Yeah, just re-entering on a cellular level,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Wow. This is awesome. Thank you for sharing those practices, because Larissa, we've seen these amazing videos of yourself doing these yoga poses, these yoga series. You're doing like a whole series in like a time lapse, and you're doing a whole set of these yogic routines. And I'm like, whoa, she's a machine. You know, you're a machine with your yoga routines, because you're doing these like the cat cow, and with your spine over
Hmm.
and over again, that your spine must be so aligned because you've taken the time, you know? So can you talk about spine health? Because why is that such a crucial component for you, not just, for yoga, but for your life in general? Because there's even a Chinese proverb, there's like a Chinese saying that we need not fear growing old as long as our spine is healthy.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I've
Can you
heard
talk?
so many great things about the importance of the health of our spine, and obviously there's the physical aspect of it, but I can truly feel like the chakra system working when I'm doing those types of yogic movements that involve um, spinal movements, especially spinal
Mhm.
waves. And same with dancing, like if you're moving your hips and your whole spine is kind of also shifting and flowing, um, just feeling the energy from the lower chakras moving up and kind of breaking up any blockages and stuff.
Mhm.
Like you can truly feel it when you're doing yoga or dancing, and it just makes you feel more fluid in your body. It makes you, for me, it helps me go with the flow in life more. The more my spine is flowy and my energy is flowy, like things in life just flow more effortlessly. Um, but yeah, one of the things I love about yoga is the way it not only addresses the physical body, but also the energetic body, the chakra system,
Mhm.
helps your, you know, your, it helps you emotionally, and on every level you feel so much better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we move on, I want to make sure that if anybody had a question, I see Sarah Voss, while you were speaking, Larissa, we had Sarah, she said earlier, I feel like people come to our lives for a reason. There's no mistakes. And Sarah also said, without all those experiences and people that come to our life, we wouldn't be who we are today. So it's always good to thank every soul that comes into your life, no matter the experience. You would
Oh
agree?
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Hmm.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So, Larissa, when it comes to you're big on Dr. Joe,
Hmm.
Dr. Joe Dispenza, and things like, becoming supernatural, but also breaking the habit of being yourself. When you're reading things like this, has Dr. Joe kind of given you some tools when it comes to dealing with these things as well? Like, what would be from the Dr. Joe perspective, I guess, of dealing with something like these matters when it comes to relationships?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's the constant reminder that you can reinvent yourself at any point. If there's an aspect of yourself or your life that you don't feel in alignment with, then you can change it. You can become a new character, because this really is just an avatar that you're residing in, that you have the choice to be who you want to be. And if you're not fulfilled, then something needs to change. But the only way your external reality can change is if you change the internal reality. You have to change, like, your habits and your thoughts and your emotions, and basically create a new personality that will attract a new reality.
Right.
So that's what I've been learning through these experiences in my life with relating to people. Um, they've always taught me so much about the different patterns within myself, and how certain situations will trigger certain emotional experiences within myself, and how I can just always come back to that place of observing and realizing, oh, okay, what within me do I want to shift that will help shift my external reality, so that I can attract better experiences and get out of repeated patterns. And so it's all about observing yourself, and then coming into a place where you can reprogram
Mhm.
yourself. And Dr. Joe teaches that through meditation, because your brainwave state gets into theta,
Mhm.
which is a hypnotic state where you can go into your subconscious mind and reprogram yourself.
Mhm.
So um, that's helpful, as well as when I was talking about breath work, one of the breath work techniques that I love the most is a technique that I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Mhm.
which is all about alchemizing your energy. So bringing the energy from your lower chakras up into your pineal gland, and you basically just um, you alchemize the energy, because you're transforming lower density frequencies into
Mhm.
higher density frequencies, and that's a beautiful way to help you through any challenging experiences, because you can take those more dense emotions, and through your breath and your focus, bringing them up your spine, you're basically like you're clearing the way, the channel up your spine, so that any energy blockages in any of your chakras will be alleviated through that process of transmuting that energy up your spine and into your pineal gland. So it's a very healing thing, and it's very activating, and you feel very empowered and euphoric after.
Mhm.
So that's always a huge mood shifter.
Yeah. Yeah, powerful and euphoric. I love that. So it's like not only is it alleviated, but you might even feel inebriated. You might even feel like you're a little drunk on the love of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. It feels amazing.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And with your avatar, because I used to be a heavy Larissa. If you didn't know, I was a heavy, big time gamer. Like just
Mm-hmm.
I spent hours and hours and hours just in front of all these RPG games. RPG it stands for role playing game. So I
Mm.
would play. MMORPGs.
Mm.
So, so MMO, we have all these acronyms. MMO stands for Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Games. So I was playing MMORPGs in these created worlds, these virtual realities, leveling up my avatar, increasing my statistics, my stats, acquiring loot, going on quests and role-playing and raiding and doing all of these things, right?
Mm.
But I didn't realize, like you said, this is our avatar. This is the game.
Yeah,
This is the we're in it
we are
now.
doing that in
Yeah.
this life. And I find it actually quite comical that we recreate that experience. Like the fact that we like create AI, for example, it's like we are AI. We create video games. We're in a video game. Like we create virtual reality headsets. That's what we are experiencing already. It's quite comical to me. It's just like humans are so silly in that way. But there's a reason why we keep creating these things. It's like it's in our nature. It's our reminder of like, oh, we already did this. We
Right.
already created this.
Right. We already did it. Like this is, it's like aspects of who we are. We can't help but create what we are. Like we're just mimicking what we are. We're just reflecting what we are, but we could really be reconnecting what we are.
Yeah.
So have you seen, Larissa, there's a you reminded me, Larissa, there's a video of a guy and he's got on the VR headset, right? He's got on the virtual reality goggles, but the eyes are cut out. They're
Oh,
they're cut out, and it's his actual eye.
yeah.
Like it's his actual eyes, like just looking through the headset,
Hmm.
and it said actual reality. And
Yeah.
he's like he's out in nature with these VR goggles, and he's just like looking with his actual eyes at the trees and the birds and the bees, and he's like, oh my God, like actual reality, like
Oh, yeah.
what is going on? Like this is trippy. This is psychedelic. And I heard one time, oh my gosh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. So the mycelium network, the psilocybin, right?
Hmm.
There was a guy, and he communed with the mushrooms, with the psilocybin, but he didn't just commune with the plant medicine. He, on top of, right before the trip hit, like right before the journey began on the mushrooms, he put on his VR headset and went
Wow.
into a virtual reality world as it was taking off.
Whoa. That
And
sounds
he
intense.
and he completely lost, like just lost, you know? Because if you can imagine, if this reality is already trippy, right? It's already,
Oh,
but then
yeah.
he took psychedelics and then went into the game world.
Wow.
So I could just only imagine
Hmm.
just the level of like, that's like Inception, right? That's another level. That's like a dream within a dream within a dream, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Because we might already be in an experience like that, a dream within a dream within a dream.
Right.
So then to take it to that next level, to go into another dream is like that's it definitely sounds very intense to do that, especially on mushrooms.
And the more that I talk to you, Larissa, our conversations, you seem like a person of focus, like a woman of focus, you know? Just,
Mm-hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong, if you have issues with concentration and stability and focus, but I mean, even just in our conversations, you're very poised, you're very still, you're very stable, you're very focused,
Oh.
like you know what I mean? So can
Mm.
you can you talk about that, like what it means to have that? Because they say that the only person we are destined to become is the one we decide to be.
Mm.
So were you always this way? Like, were you always this poised and this focused? Or did you have your distractions back in the day before this version that you have become?
Mm. It's funny. I was actually just talking to, one of our mutual friends,
Yeah.
Marcus.
Yeah, brother.
So we were actually having a conversation recently about like the fact that I'm actually not naturally a super like organized and focused and like type A personality type of person. I I feel like I've always had a lot of feminine energy, like very flowy, like not very disciplined and not very focused energy just naturally, but it wasn't helping me get to where I wanted to be in life. And I started to learn about like masculine and feminine energetics and learning that, okay, if I want to be myself and my most authentic self is very flowy and creative, but I don't feel safe to be that way in this very regimented and very structured world, if I don't have structure within myself and I need to invite more of that into my way of being, invite more of like that masculine energy within myself to show up to help my feminine energy feel safe to flow and be creative, especially as an entrepreneur, it's like I needed to build more of a structured foundation for myself. And it's taken a lot of effort and focus to build these habits of being more structured, like with my routine and my work schedule and stuff like that. Didn't come naturally to me at all, but I've implemented it into my life, being more focused, more structured, so that I can also just be playful and flowy and creative. And that's really how I thrive. But you kind of need both sides to yourself. And wherever you're lacking, sometimes you need to put more effort in. But yeah, it's been helpful. I mean, I've always had a strong focus when it comes to my like my my big picture goals. Like I am always stepping towards them, and that's where I have a lot of focus. But it's like the small daily tasks of getting things done. It takes a lot of effort for me to come into being really focused and achieving just the daily tasks and, getting things done in a way that is most efficient. So I'm always trying to get better at that. But um, thanks for, acknowledging that you see that within me. And it makes me feel like I'm making a lot of progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm not the only one. You know, I can't be the only one that sees it in you. It's in you. You
Well,
know,
people always say like, "Oh, you have such discipline, like the way you eat, you're always so active, like you have such good habits." And I always tell people it's not discipline for me. Like I don't even like that word. I don't like the idea of being rigid and disciplined. To me, I just do what I love doing. And that's these things that make me feel my best, these healthy habits. I do them because I love them and it brings joy. It's not really about like going out of my way to do things I don't want to do, like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, but I'm going to force myself. I never do that. If I don't want to work out, I don't work out. But most of the time, I want to work out because it makes me feel amazing. And so it's more so rooted in self love for me than discipline. It's like, how can I love my body? How can I love myself on the deepest level and truly nourish myself in all ways so that I can thrive and feel my best and glow and help other people and spread light. Like that's what I care about. Not about like discipline and being rigid. Like that's just not me. And it works for some people, but if I get into that state of mind, it's not going to motivate me. Like I'm motivated through feeling good.
Right. Oh my gosh. This is awesome. Thank you for sharing that piece because I know it's valuable, for people to hear and even myself it's a
Mm,
great refresher to know like to follow your highest excitement and just have that just all encompassing embodying that self-love.
mm,
Even Nabiha just said that's how it's supposed to be.
yeah.
Nabiha's like just flow.
Yeah.
Nicole is saying the more I practice self-care without forcing it, the more I become addicted to it because it feels so good. I resonate with this so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting how you put that and how you saw the outside world. So, yeah, people are definitely resonating because, I myself, I think I've told you my story. They told me, hey, Jerome, you have this thing, we call it attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. You have a disorder, you
Yeah.
know? Like you
Mhm.
can't focus. It's a disorder. You know? You're not gonna pay attention. That's a disorder, you know? Like they were just telling me you're not gonna be like those kids over there. You can't study like those kids over there. You can't buddy with those kids over there because they're not like you know? And for a long time I was envious. I was very jealous of kids that were very structured and very focused and
Mhm.
very, you know, content to be concentrated and to be in, you know, and I just, it was completely opposite to my personality, you
Yeah,
know?
I
I
can
was,
relate.
you can relate, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I even to this day I've noticed like I'll start doing a task and then halfway through I'll start doing a different task and then a different one and then I have like all these half done tasks and I've instead of like being like, oh, that's a problem, it's like, okay, no, maybe sometimes you just need a break and you need to break up your tasks and come back and finish it later because it is more about like just flowing with it and being almost like spontaneous, like, okay, I need to do this now, I need to do that now, and this structured reality tells us that's the wrong way to do it. But as long as you're just enjoying life, getting the things done that you need to get done, and doing it your way that works for you, then like ignore what society tells you is the right or wrong way to do stuff. Like, you know. But I am the same way, and it's like, but at the same time, certain routines and certain structures have really helped
Sure.
me as far as going further with reaching the goals that I have. So you kind of need both.
Likewise, likewise. You know, just I love how you allow for that spontaneity, you know, just the magic of life. Like, you know, some people find certain structures and what they call those disciplines, they find it very mundane, you
Yeah.
know. You're going to the gym, oh, that's so mundane. But you've been able to find magic in the mundane, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like it's a shift in perspective. I
Right,
think when we tell ourselves like going back to the discipline thing, like when we tell ourselves, okay, there's a task that I need to do that I don't want to do
right.
and I need a level of discipline in order to do it on a regular basis. Like that's such a negative way of looking at it. But if you shift it and you become excited about it, like, oh, I can't wait to pump my body with endorphins and get strong and feel good, look good, feel good about myself, have a higher self esteem. And if you focus on all the benefits, like really, really like even dive into learning on a deeper level, like what happens biologically when you do that task of working out or eating healthier, whatever it may be. For me, the more I learn about what's happening in my body and the benefits, I mean, that just ignites the love within myself and my heart opens to the idea and I get excited about it and it doesn't become mundane anymore. It becomes exciting and fun and something I want to do. So it's a shift in perspective that needs to happen. And I think that's one of the biggest keys for people when they're trying to change their lifestyle and have healthier habits is you can't just do the things. You have to actually become a different version of yourself, the person that enjoys doing those things.
Mhm.
And it's about rewiring your brain in that way.
Yeah. This is straight out of, you know, James Clear wrote a book called Atomic
Oh,
Habits, right?
oh,
This is
nice.
straight out of Atomic Habits. James Clear wrote this book and he's like, yeah, focus on the identity,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like,
Yeah.
who do you think you are? You
Yeah.
know?
Who is that person that, gets up early to go to the gym to, make themselves healthy meals and
Yeah,
who is that person?
right,
If you're not already that person, you have to become it.
right, right. So it's shifting away from like, you know, the things that I do to who I am,
Yeah, the state of
you know?
being. Yeah.
Yeah, the way
Mm-hmm.
you are, like who you are, instead of just what you do. This is who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that it's like you follow your highest excitement. You know, that's straight from like Bashar. He's like Bashar the channeler. You know, the channeler.
Yeah. Oh
He's like
yeah.
follow your highest excitement to the best of your ability for as long as you can with no attachment to outcome. You know, just let it go, and that's the formula. You know, follow that. And I love that your highest excitement just happens to be the most beneficial self-love practices for yourself that you just enjoy doing and you can't wait to do. You know, some of us, like I used to just roll out of bed. You know, I used to crawl out of bed. You jump out of bed. You're like, let's get it going. You know, let's get the energy flowing.
Yeah.
And it's such, yeah, it's such a perspective to have in the collective to, you know, have rewired yourself in that way. Because even earlier, you mentioned hypnosis. And
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had too many talks on this topic, but if you can touch on that, was there a certain method or a methodology of hypnosis where you actually did some intense work to really change who you are at the root level with hypnosis?
Mm. Well, um, definitely through deep states of meditation, your brainwaves get into theta, which is a state of hypnosis. So that's the perfect way to reprogram your subconscious mind. And you can do that through getting into a deep state of meditation, and then you can just start to observe your patterns and then implement new ones from that state. It's like, okay, I don't want to have this pattern of negative self-talk, so I'm going to replace those words with positive ones.
Mhm.
That's one way that I've experienced. And I have also done just one hypnotherapy session before. It was like a past life regression. And what's interesting is the theme of that kind of came up in our conversation just a moment ago about the difference between doing things rather than your state of being is actually what creates things in your life. It's not about doing tasks. It's about your state of being, because from that state of being, that's going to determine the energy that you create from, and that's actually going to create your reality from that place rather than the physical. Oh, I need to do. Um, so that was an interesting experience for sure. Like actually experiencing a hypnotherapy session.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, anytime your brainwave states enter theta, you're in that level of perception where you can rewire your subconscious mind. And I think meditation is one of the easiest and best ways to get to that state.
Yeah. Super key, you know, just going into those different brain waves to just have those different breakthroughs, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
just to break through breaking the barriers of our own belief systems.
Yeah.
Like they say, Larissa, you've heard this, all BS, belief systems, right? It's all
Oh
BS,
yeah. Okay, nice. Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
So it's like we gotta break down one belief system to make room for another, you know, like make room for something that serves you, not something that disturbs you, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
unnerves you or just swerves you off of your alignment, like you said before.
Yeah.
So I love as well, Larissa, you talked about like, you know, the endorphins, these feel-good chemicals, the serotonin, the endorphins, the oxytocin, and the dopamine. You know, just rewiring your dopamine. I feel like I've definitely done that when it comes to the things that, you know, we engage in every day. They're so engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Like just listening to you is so engaging. You know, it's like it's so inspiring, but it's also just enlivening. It's enlightening. It's like it's exciting. You know, I'm like, what? I'm learning in real time from yourself who's gone through these lived experiences and you've been able to transmute this energy, compute this energy, become more resolute with energy, and then you've reshaped your whole reality, you know? And you can touch somebody else, their life, when you've already touched your own,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
of course, you know, thank you. It's like you're reminding me, you know, like why I enjoy these talks so much and just taking walks so much, like things that people don't really enjoy really spending time on and they feel like is a waste. For me, this is my highest excitement right here, you know? This is my highest excitement. So thank you so much. You know, we touched on many topics today that were needed. You know, they were definitely needed to be touched on, especially when it comes to self-love, these practices, you know, the dynamics with relationships, understanding these avoidant and attachments, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
dynamics with the dichotomy of people who come into our wavelength, come into our field of energy, and how to heal that energy,
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for these testimonies. And also, if somebody has just caught wind of you, and y'all need to follow this lady, follow Larissa May, follow her now. Let people know if you have any offerings available, if right now you have any services available, or if they can get in touch and in tune with you even deeper. What would be the best place for them to do that?
Yeah. So yeah, over on my Instagram, the link in my bio has all of the links to I have some ebooks available. I am a raw vegan chef and I have a beautiful recipe ebook of beautiful raw vegan recipes that are super simple. And also a transitioning guide if you're interested in transitioning to a raw vegan lifestyle. And I also offer one-on-one coaching if you need extra assistance with that. And that's all on my website, which is linked in the bio. And yeah, I offer a 20-minute free consultation if you are just interested to see if we're a good fit and working together. So you can just contact me about that. I also have a YouTube channel. Um, but yeah, just reach out anytime if you have any questions, and I'm always happy to help and assist.
Awesome. Awesome. And y'all definitely subscribe. Check out her YouTube channel because she does these awesome demonstrations. We talked about it before, but as you were speaking about, the pineal gland, these meditations, and just raising your state of vibration, check out Larissa May on YouTube because she does it for you. She shows you in real time. She shows you, she doesn't just tell, she shows. And she's not just talking, she knows.
Yeah,
So
if you're curious about the breath by Dr. Joe
right.
Dispenza, I have a great tutorial on how to do that, and it's a great way to shift your energy. Very powerful.
Super, super powerful. So much love, Larissa. Enjoy the rest of your day and
Thank
just
you.
much, much love.
Yeah,
Much love.
thanks for having me on again, and much love to you as well, and to everybody watching. Thank you so much.
Right. All right. Take care.
Bye. Talk to you
Bye.
later.